This is not going to be easy for me to explain without telling you too much information. And remember, you told me not to tell you when I come back to see you because you don't want to be too over-influenced. And also, remember, as we said earlier, we don't want you to go around telling people now because they'll think you're insane. But brace yourself. Every corporation on our planet, the Earth, which you reside on for now, but at any rate, every corporation, every industry, every planet, every universe has seen an evolution. An evolution that is indescribable. But essentially, what essentially happened was money became almost extinct. It became almost, it almost lost any merit. I know it's hard to believe because even as I say it, even for me, knowing your past history, humanity's history, it's even difficult. But let me try to explain this so you can comprehend it. People still had money, but it was used only as a tool. And in fact, the majority of beings in the universes don't use money. If John, let's do an example. If John needs a house built, John gets his house built by, let's say, Pete. Okay? Now, you might say, well, what does Pete get in exchange? Well, that's where it becomes very existential, very hard to comprehend. A great occurrence occurred that essentially changed the emotional makeup and physiological and chemistry makeup of all life in the universe. Whereas one would say, well, what are you going to give me for that? If I give you this, what are you going to give me in exchange for that? That's no longer how we look, how we act, how we feel. So in other words, if somebody needs something, we feel not just an obligation, but if we don't provide it, we actually feel as if we're hurting ourselves. And again, that's due to the fact of the great occurrence. You might say, well, what's the great occurrence? The one thing you told me not to do is to tell you what the great occurrence is. Absolutely, 100% do not tell you. The only thing that I can say, and you permitted me to say, is that it's going to change the universe and every universe there is. It's that big. But it's every single company on earth, the pharmaceuticals, allowed every technology, know-how, expertise, expert research they had, and it was almost a reverse of what you're used to. You know how there's competition in your time? Well, there's almost a competition in our time, but instead of who can get the most money, it's almost like a competition who can help the most beings. And there are more than humans. We have a whole universe of life. We have so many different types of life that, again, because of the great occurrence, it's just hard to explain. I can tell you this much. When the great occurrence happens, everyone that was ever evil, they have a second chance to change. And what's so funny about that is that without even thinking, they want to change. So the most evil person, take for example, in your time back in the 40s, before you actually, Hitler, for example, would be someone who all of us hate him to an extent for what he did. Well, we hated his actions. Well, even with the great occurrence, even somebody like Hitler wants forgiveness. It becomes, it really is hard to articulate, but he becomes a good person. Yeah, I know. Don't, look, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, when I thought about it, I wanted to whoop his ass steroids too, believe me.